McGregor Cerrone, a.k.a. the Big Fight Podcast, a show on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. I'm John Franklin. I'm joined by Sherdog Cage Side Presses, Keith Shillan. Keith, how are you?
I'm great, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. This is the fun one. I mean, the other ones, we enjoy them all, but this is the one we get to dive way deeper into these fights than anything else. So let's talk about this. So, Keith, the fights keep getting just bigger and bigger. And let me start by saying, surprise, surprise, motherfucker, the king is back. He needed an opponent, and Dana White knew a guy. So with all the shtick out of the way, at least for now, Keith, I want to start with kind of an odd question, or maybe it's just an odd way to start.
Okay.
Is this the most important fight that's booked in the UFC right now?
Oh, that's a good question. So just to give it back, I want to talk about how I feel as a MMA fan. Like, we just got past the holidays, and when you get like warm, I like Christmas. I'm a Christmas guy. That's my favorite holiday. I like all the traditions. Like, me and my wife, we have a bunch of traditions. We go to a Christmas Carol as a family every year. There's a place near us that have these Christmas lights. There's all these things. You have that warm feeling. I feel the same way when Conor's fighting. Like, it feels like a holiday. This feels like Christmas week to me, and the press conference is a big deal. Like, I'm excited for the press conference. I'm excited for the early weigh-ins. I'm excited for the ceremonial weigh-ins. And it's so funny. I've been accused – this is what I love. I've been accused both ways. I've been accused of being a Conor McGregor nut hugger, as the old Sherdog Forum guys would say. And then I've been accused the other way of being the big Conor. Oh, you hate Conor. You're always negative about the guy. And I'm like, that's what I know. I feel like I'm right down the middle. Like, I obviously got it. If the fans of Conor don't like how I view him, and if the haters of Conor don't like the way I view him, back to, is this the most important fight in the UFC right now? Whew, that's a good one, because I just talked on my brand new show, MMA Takeover. I started off the first segment. I talked about how loaded the first quarter of 2020 is, with John Jones, with Israel Adesanya fighting, with Khabib and Tony fighting. But how is it not? How is the return of Conor McGregor not? He's the biggest star in the sport. This pay-per-view will, even though Tony and Khabib's a better fight, this pay-per-view would do better numbers.
Much hinges on this fight is what I think. Like, I'm not saying it's a better or worse fight than Khabib Tony. It's probably a worse fight than Khabib Tony. Although we'll get into that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean – so much, like, these guys are two-weight fighters. Conor's a two-weight champion. Now he's coming up to 70. So if with a win, and we'll talk all about what's next, but there's a lot that hinges on this fight in terms of the money for the UFC, in terms of where Cowboy's going, where Conor's going, where both divisions are going. I think it might be the most important fight, which is interesting.
Yeah, I always feel this way. When I think about Conor, I think of like Derek Jeter with the Yankees. Derek Jeter wasn't the best player on the Yankees. There was always somebody better than, whether it be A-Rod, whether it be a pitcher, whether it be somebody. There was always someone better player. Wasn't Derek Jeter the most important? He was the face of the organization. Like, he was the one, if you had a spokesman, like the leader, it was Derek Jeter. That's the same way with Conor.
Yeah, Conor's to turn it over to the NFL in a way, it's like, J.J. Watt. These guys, they're kind of the face. Like, Conor's the face.
He's the face of the UFC. Yeah, when people first think of the UFC, they know who Conor McGregor is. So I had a buddy, a guy in my other job that I work with. We were talking about fight. I don't remember who, a very popular fighter. He didn't recognize him, but as soon as I show Conor, of course I know Conor McGregor. That's the people. There are people who have never seen Conor fight who knows who he is. Like, there's not many other people in the sport that can say that.
Yeah, and Conor's almost a brand, and he's turned the UFC into a brand where, like, the thing that I think is the most amazing thing about the NFL is that it doesn't matter who you ask, everybody has a favorite team. Even if they don't watch football. Because I was at work the other day, and I asked some people, I was like, who's your favorite football team? And one of my coworkers, she said, well, my dad likes the Giants, so I guess that's my favorite team. So everybody has a reason. So it's the same thing with Conor. Like, he makes the UFC relevant across all these different, platforms and areas and demographics. He's got that polarizing figure thing down. He's right down the middle. Everyone has an opinion about Conor McGregor. That's the best way to put it. Everyone has an opinion about him.
Yeah, and being I mean, his back is against the wall in this fight. If he doesn't win, I mean, this would be the worst loss in his UFC career. He'll be set back in big, big ways. I mean, the hardcore fans have really turned against him. You know, casual fans might turn against him. Like if you bought the Mayweather pay-per-view and saw him lose, you buy the Habib pay-per-view, see him lose, and now you buy this pay-per-view and see him lose. That'd be 3 pay-per-views in a row that he lost. So yeah, his back is against the wall.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the origin story. And guys, we're going to get through the origin story somewhat quickly. In the past, we've gone through all the fights and everything like that. I'm going to kind of get us as quickly as we can to the presser, where they were both at, as quickly as we can to the Dos Anjos fight kind of falling apart and the role Donald Cerrone played in that. But again, round 1 is origin story, so let's get into that. So let's start with Donald Cerrone. He really, his name was made in the WEC a long, long time ago. This is when WEC had the best 155-pound fighters in the world. He fought Jamie Varner. He fought Benson Henderson. He fought Razor Rob McCullough. He fought all these guys, and he was a champion in WEC. And that's sort of that coupled with Tap Out is kind of where his name was made, when it was still those 3 guys from Tap Out. And I think they had a TV show. He was featured on that. That's kind of where you got to know Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And then as the WEC made its way to the UFC, Cerrone became this guy who sort of represented kind of where Matt Hughes left off. Donald Cerrone picked up. If you were a working class kind of guy, if you're a blue collar kind of guy. And the interesting thing about Cowboy is, and we'll get into this a little bit later, potentially, is that he kind of had this like extreme sports part of him too. So he was pulling those guys in, and he was pulling the country boys in. And so that's kind of where he was, right? So obviously he had his first title shot in terms of the UFC against Rafael Dos Anjos. The fight was all Dos Anjos's. And then this is kind of where, as Conor's making his ascension as well, kind of came over from Cage Warriors, and he's having these high-profile fights and going through the ranks pretty quickly. The Conor story's been told 1,000 times. Where they come to an apex where they come to a crossroads is Rafael Dos Anjos. So Conor was booked to fight Rafael Dos Anjos. The fight fell through, and there were 3 fighters who were potential opponents for Conor. It was Uriah Faber, Donald Cerrone, and the person he ultimately fought, which was Nate Diaz. So talk to me about these 2 guys in their early careers and kind of get us right up to where we're at.
Yeah, so the thing I just want to talk about, I want to talk about their personalities, because, and this is why I think it's actually fascinating, because if you're an MMA fan, you probably fall in one of the 2 categories. You either like the big trash talk, you like the larger than life, you like that part of the sport that has become mainstream, the sport that you're on ESPN, you're talking to Conan O'Brien, you're making appearances different places, you could be a Hollywood actor, like you like that mainstream stuff thing, and that's all Conor. The commercials, the showing up, the 3-piece. Remember, he used to always say when he first coming up, anytime you could wear a 3-piece suit, you should, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's him. But Donald Cerrone is that true roots of the sport, if you know what I mean. Like, remember those time when it wasn't a mainstream thing, where it was like I remember like it was yesterday. I was at a Six Flags, and I saw, and you're funny you said Tap Out. I saw a guy wear a Tap Out shirt. And this is before they really blew up. And I went up to him, I was like, when the lines like kind of turn, and like the people that had 12 people ahead of you, that suddenly you could be next to each other as the lines for the roller coaster, you know what I'm talking about? When they weave in and out. Mm-hmm. So suddenly me and this guy were right next to each other. And I was like, hey man, that's a cool shirt. Like, are you an MMA fan? And he's like, yeah. And we started talking to the point where the guy let people cut him so we would be next to each other to talk, because it was like a cult. It was like that secret society. It was like Fight Club that no one else knew. Like, Cerrone reminds me of that before it was mainstream. I mean, Donald Cerrone is a guy that wears jeans and a T-shirt. He's a guy that, he wants – I mean, you look at the countdown shows. He's riding snowmobiles with his son on the back. Like, he's not drinking champagne, riding in Rolls Royce. That's Conor. So their personalities are so different. even the way they present themselves, Conor loves the trash talk. Now he's taken a much different angle for this fight, but his rise, part of his rise was he'd say it then do it. Well, Cerrone's never been that guy. Cerrone's one of the guy like, I fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, but it was always respectful. Remember when he fought Alex Hernandez and Alex Hernandez was trying to trash talk? Like, Cerrone was like, come on, dude, I'm too old for that. I don't need that. Like, why are you trying to trash talk? Remember that?
Yeah.
So, like, their personalities is so different, but what makes it so great? Like, when you have the Conor McGregor, the whiskey, compared to the Budweiser, like, even to the liquor. Like, one's a liquor guy, the other guy's a beer guy. Like, this is what I love about this. Like, just how different they are, and how quick Conor McGregor rose to stardom, and how long it has taken Cerrone to all these appearances, fighting everybody. You know, it's just great. Now, I don't even remember what the original question was. I don't know what I wanted to rant.
Well, no, there wasn't really a question. I guess what I found interesting was that, I used to have this thing, and we try our best not to interject ourselves in this because this is high stakes fighting, and you fought before, but like street fighting and stuff like that. But I remember.
Yeah, but go ahead. I just told a story about Six Flags, so go ahead.
That's true. Well, here's my intersection, why I thought this was interesting, and we'll get to the Go Big presser here in a second. But one point of intersection that I had not brought up was they both fought on UFC 178. Poirier fought Conor, and Cerrone fought Alvarez in the main event. So there's footage out there of Poirier and Conor kind of getting into it, and then Cerrone being much more subdued.
I think it was a co-main event.
Right. No, I'm saying Conor and Poirier came out first.
Oh, then, I think Cerrone and Alvarez was co-main event.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. But what I mean is that they came out after Conor and Poirier did.
A video of them actually going back, like Cerrone and McGregor meeting each other back then, like talking to each other. Like, I think they even took a picture together.
Right.
Being very cordial. Because remember, they were in different weight classes.
Yeah. But so this is where I'm talking about where it got interesting. So they intersected that day. And it was interesting because, Donald Cerrone was not a stranger to a weigh-in where there was some words exchanged, or like, remember when Nate Diaz flipped his cowboy hat off? So he'd been in those before. Sure. But Conor and Poirier were so crazy that Cerrone even said, how am I supposed to follow that? And then he was up there with Eddie, and they just kind of shake hands. But here's my point.
It goes back to my point about how different they were.
Right, but here's my thing. I remember when I was younger, I would go to parties, and I would always get to the party and go, that's the guy I'm going to have a problem with. And if I stay at this party long enough, we're bound to run into each other. We're bound to cross paths. I just know that we're too different, me and that guy. And I would usually end up getting in a fight with the guy. I mean, that's just how it was when I was in my 20s. I remember when that presser happened, and even how Conor was handling himself at that time. He was talking all this shit, and you would always say, man, he won't say that with this guy around, or he won't say that with that guy around, and he always would. He'd get away with Aldo, right? Dustin Poirier wasn't quite who he is now. But then in that presser, it was like, will he talk shit about these 55ers with Cowboy sitting there? And he did, and that's when they went back and forth. Conor was like, you guys are all stuck in the mud. And then Cowboy was saying, listen, you're about to get your ass whipped by Aldo. This was their first real intersection where it was like, okay, I could sort of see a fight between these two guys. We know Conor's not afraid to jump weight. Mm-hmm. Cowboys, that's where I think it got interesting. And that's where it was like these two guys who could have avoided each other but could potentially be on a collision course finally collided.
To me, that is the brilliance of Conor McGregor. Say what you want. He's made some really dumb choices in his personal life, which we're going to have to cover. But business-wise, he has made some brilliant decisions. In the early stages of his rise, to be sitting at that, it was called the Go Big press conference. It was, like 3 years ago. No.
September 4th, 2015.
There you go. September 4th, 2015. The Go Big press conference. And to sit there and pretty much put himself against every single person on there. It didn't become Conor versus Jose Aldo. It became Conor versus Jose Aldo and Rafael dos Santos, Donald Cerrone, Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendez, whoever. He did it another time with the Jeremy Stevenson one for UFC. Was it 205 where he turned back and who the hell, who the F is that guy? So that was the brilliance of that. He always had like backup plans. He always setting up future. Like he was laying seeds that is blossoming. What'd you say? Almost 4.5 years later, 5 years later. Like think about that. That's brilliant. If that didn't happen, who knows? Like, would be as exciting as it is now.
You talk about the things that he's always been planting seeds. You talk about the video of him kind of squaring off with Tyron Woodley. That never came to fruition. But if Woodley keeps the belt, if Woodley's the champion right now, that has some relevance.
Yeah. How about even the guys he's beaten? When Max Holloway won a big fight, he showed the picture of Holloway beat up, and he's like, "Oh, I missed those sunglasses." Like different things, reminding people that he beat Max Holloway. Like little things he does. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. So I just wanted I wrote down some quotes of the back and forth between Conor and Cerrone in this. He says Conor called him too stiff and too slow, and then Cerrone says like too big and too strong. At one point, Cerrone says, "I'll bend him over and kick the Lucky Charms out of him."
Yeah.
He called him an Englishman, which was kind of funny. But my favorite part of the whole press conference had nothing to really even do with Conor. It was when Donald Cerrone, he was talking to Conor, and he says, "Sit down," which he was sitting down, and he goes, "You beat nobody." But the best part, right to Donald Cerrone's left, one person over is Chad Mendes.
Yeah.
Who Conor's last fight was a victory over.
Right.
I was like, damn, Donald, nothing like smashing your boy.
And then Conor does the yeehaw. It was a great moment. People forget that was the red panty night presser. Yes. Like this is kind of what Conor
and everyone always thinks about Rafael dos Santos. That comment was to Rafael dos Santos, but it was to both of them because the question was, you said that they're fighting for the title, that either one would give up to get a chance to fight him. Rafael dos Santos begins to start the answer, and he's basically saying, they both look. Cerrone and Rafael looked at it like, who's going to answer first? Like Cerrone gives her like, go ahead. Rafael starts answering it. He gets 5 seconds in, basically like, I'm just focused on Donald at this point. And then Conor jumps in, like, answer the question. You take it from me. You'd call up your wife. Get out the red panties,
And he even gives him an out a little bit where he says anybody would. I'm the big money fight. I'm the big money shit in all weight divisions is the quote. And that's kind of what he was at the time.
Let me ask this, because you always like to ask me a question. Let me ask you a question. Is that still true today? Does everybody give up the opponent to face Conor right now, even after a loss? Well,
pre this fight. And that's why I think this fight is so huge. Pre this fight, he's the biggest fight in the world.
Okay. And if he wins, then it's even more true. Right. And if he wins in spectacular fashion.
And you can make a case that if he loses, it still is. He's still a money fight. But in comparison to everyone else, he's not a money fight now. Conor's so huge that it's funny. And this goes a lot to the backstory, and we'll get more into Cerrone in a second. But Conor's so huge, he almost had to go to boxing in a way. He had almost outgrown the sport. Now, where there's still fights in MMA form, yes.
I still think he has.
Yeah.
Like, he has surpassed. Conor is bigger than the UFC. Does the UFC need him? No, I don't believe that. But he doesn't need the UFC either. Like he showed that by getting that Mayweather fight.
Right.
That wasn't made by the power of Dana White and the Fertitta brothers and Endeavor and all that. That was made by the power of Conor McGregor.
Well, yeah, and just think about it. If you were to infuse Conor, an active Conor, right, in a promotion that he's fighting cans. And we beat them all. Like if all of a sudden Conor was in Bellator, everything about Bellator changes. Their financial situation changes. Now what it would take to get him financially is a whole different story. But what you say, he's a game changer in that way. Is he bigger than UFC? You can make an argument because if he went somewhere else, now things change. Yeah. Now everything, the whole dynamics of the world changes. So the few things I want to touch on both these guys. When you talk about Cerrone in terms of origin story and backstory, if you will, the active fighter, all the records. The one question I want to ask you, which may be better suited for breakdown, but I have to ask it now because it's part of the origin story. I call it the cow dad. This whole cow dad business. Do you think he's a better fighter since his son was born? Or do you think he's
I spoke with this to Ben Duffy on the first episode of the MMA Takeover, the newest show on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. And I don't believe that narrative. I believe he fought lesser opponents. I feel like the narrative became true because he fought Mike Perry and he fought Alex Hernandez. When he fought Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, it wasn't true. So, no, I do not believe that. I think it was just the perfect timing. So, and having the right opponents, so it made it seem like he was just – and it was a creative narrative.
And the three guys that he beat, you could make a case were or are trending down. But at the time, they were perceived differently than they are now. Mike Perry has not been the same fighter he was since he fought Donald Cerrone. Alex Hernandez was maybe a little bit early, and Iaquinta seems to be kind of trending down. So
yeah, I forgot about Iaquinta. That's the best. That's your best argument.
But it all went to that narrative.
Because I believe Cerrone came into the Iaquinta fight as the underdog.
Probably, yeah.
Not huge, but he was an underdog, I believe. So that is if you're going to make that argument that the motivation of the son changed something in him, that Iaquinta fight is the perfect.
That's the strongest argument for it, yeah.
And then the weakest one is the Perry's in the one. Are we going to get to how this actual, like, we've already talked about, how about how Cerrone got picked?
Let's talk about it.
Okay, so it all started with a tweet going back to the Alex Hernandez fight. After he beat Alex Hernandez, Conor tweeted out, it was January 19th, 2019. So it was exactly 1 year and 1 day from the fight on Saturday. So just over a year ago. Oh, no, sorry. No, let me back that. It's less than 1 day of a year. So it's been a year that this has been put in motion. Conor tweeted, "For a fight like that, Donald, I'll fight you. Congratulations." And that's put all the machinery to work. That's when we started seeing the Proper 12 and the Budweiser and all these different things start getting put in place. And after every single fight of Donald Cerrone, who should he fight next? Conor's name was always the one. When he beat Al Iaquinta, that was when it hit the peak. When he beat Al Iaquinta, I think everyone was saying, Conor has to be the guy. And then, there was people saying he shouldn't be taken. Remember people saying he shouldn't have took the Al Iaquinta fight? People were like, why would you risk, missing out on Conor if you lose to Al Iaquinta? And then he gets past Al Iaquinta, and everyone's like, oh, thank God he got past Al Iaquinta. Now he has to get the fight. And then he gets Tony Ferguson, like, what are you doing, man? Oh, I guess he's going to try to get the title instead. Like, and people would think that was a bad choice. And he ended up.
No, I remember that. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I remember that it was a decision for Cowboy. What is the direction you're going to go in? Are you going to go chase this, and this is a horrible pun that I'm about to use, but are you going to chase the pot of gold, the Irish, the leprechaun? I get it, guys. But are you going to chase the pot of gold, which is Conor McGregor, or are you going to chase the title? And fighting Tony Ferguson is a decision to chase the title. And even fighting Justin Gaethje is a decision to chase the title. And now, was he biding time waiting for Conor? Because Conor was going to come back when Conor is going to come back. That's who he is in the sport? Maybe. But, he was still on a championship trajectory. Even after Tony, I think, because of the way the Tony fight ended. Yeah,
when he lost to Tony, a lot of people thought he blew his chance to get Conor. A lot of people thought, like, oh, you blew your chance. But it's funny because before that fight, that's exactly what he was saying. Like, he was saying, like, money comes and goes, but legacy lasts forever. And that's, like, the one thing he was missing. And he's made a lot of money. Obviously not Conor money, but he's made a lot of money. He hasn't had that title in the UFC. That's the only thing he's really kind of missing. So, yeah.
And guys, obviously Keith said there that he blew his chance. He blew his nose in the Tony fight. We're full of puns tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so
and somehow he got. So let me ask you this question: do you think so? Now with the UFC decided, because there was a lot of options, and I was saying this to Ben the other day. For the first time in a really long time, there was Conor not having the title, not really in the title picture, not in the line somewhere. There was a lot of options for him. Do you think Cerrone was the right choice?
I do.
Okay.
I think Cerrone is, while he is a well-rounded fighter, of Conor's options, depending on how you feel about Justin Gaethje, I'm high on Justin Gaethje. I think Cerrone was the most beatable. So I think, and that's what I think that Cerrone was the biggest name that was the most beatable.
Okay.
That's what Conor needed. He needed a big name. Mm-hmm. He needed someone that you think can beat him, but probably can't. And I have an interesting question for you when we get to the breakdowns and all that about in terms of on their best night type stuff. Yeah. Before we move on from the
let me say this real quick because I had 4 reasons why I 100% agree with you that I think Donald Cerrone was the best choice. I think he was the most obvious choice, and I'll tell you, I had 4 reasons, 4 things. You've kind of said 2 of them. One is he is a name. So I always categorize like fight fans. There is the super casual, the ones who only tune in for Donald Cerrone. I mean, sorry, Conor McGregor, Brock Lesnar, maybe John Jones, like the mega stars. Then I have like the MMA fans, which are the guys who they'll watch a lot of pay-per-views. They might watch a fight night, but they're not watching every single thing. They're not watching WEC. I mean, obviously not watching WECs, LFAs, and they're missing majority of Bellator cards. And then you have the hardcores, you, me, all the guys on the network, Marcel, the people who tune in every single card. They're watching podcasts. Like if you could say you're an MMA fan, but you don't know who Luke Thomas are, then you're not a hardcore fan. Like you should know who Luke Thomas is, So I feel like Cerrone is not a name in that casual. The casual fans might not know who Donald Cerrone is, but that next tier definitely does. They know the accomplishments with Donald Cerrone. They know this guy is willing to fight everybody all the time. So he's a name in that sense.
Well, I think also you talk about degrees of separation, right? Like, where does somebody know somebody from? Like, you may not know Donald Cerrone, but how long would it take me to explain to you who he is?
Yeah, exactly.
And if it doesn't take that long for me to explain to you who he is, like you said, he's right outside the full casual.
And what happens? I know that happens to you. It probably happens to all of us. When Conor McGregor gets a fight, Nate Diaz, whoever gets a fight, you get a call, you get a text, you get something from the casual. Hey, who's this guy he's fighting? And you go, oh, Donald Cerrone. Oh, is this like they're just throwing it? Who's Donald Cerrone? He's like, oh no, he's only nobody in the history of the sport has more wins than Donald Cerrone, more stoppages in the history of the UFC. And then they go, oh wow, so he's a real threat. Which gets to my second and third point, which you've already said, Donald Cerrone is a very winnable fight for Conor McGregor. However, which goes to my third point, he's a very big threat to Conor McGregor. So he fits both categories. You don't want to tossing out tomato cans at him. Everyone knows the setup, but he should be favored. He should win. So that's why the second and third. And then the fourth one, I just think Donald Cerrone deserves it, being that he's fought everybody. He's been the ultimate company man. He has these records. If anybody before the end of his career deserves a mega fight, deserves that fight that maybe in the rankings doesn't even make that much sense, or someone like Justin Gaethje, who's high in the rankings, who just beat him, probably deserves it more. If you're ever going to sell it to someone, Donald Cerrone is that guy.
What is funny? This might take a little bit more research to do, but off the top of my head, they take care of the company men. I'll give you the example. Michael Bisping got GSP. They tried to give DC, Brock. This is kind of that for Donald Cerrone. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, you if you're going to win the fight or not, that's up to you. But, Bisping lost his. Obviously, we believe Cormier would have won, but it never came to fruition. But it's like, hey, we're going to put you in there. We're going to give you, and I think maybe what we can start calling it moving forward is this is the gold fight, the gold watch fight. Right? You get the gold watch. It's almost towards the end. Here's your gold watch. Thank you for your service. You get to fight Conor.
Yeah.
Fight Brock. You get to fight GSP. We had a lot of good years. We shared some laughs. And retirement.
And even going back to, you made a good point with Michael Bisping. Even if you go back to Michael Bisping, when Luke Rockhold was needed opponent on week's notice, you think Michael Bisping, who was lower down on the middleweight rankings, would have been the only guy to step up and take that fight? There was other guys higher ranked than him that would have probably jumped at that opportunity too. It's like, hey, I get to skip the line and get a title fight. I'll take that. But because Michael Bisping is the ultimate coming guy, he's going to show up. He's going to try to put on a show. So yeah, I think that's a good. I mean, how many times has they called up Donald Cerrone and he's taken the fight?
Yeah.
So yeah, he deserves
probably
it.
Every time.
And if Justin Gaethje beat, say, let me just think of a name. Say Justin Gaethje just beat Ally Quinta, and then they gave the fight to Ally Quinta, there'd be outrage over it. But because it's Donald Cerrone and everything he's done, I don't think there is that outrage. There isn't a lot of people complaining that Cerrone got the matchup.
Right. All right, last thing I want to talk about.
Okay. I want to talk about one more thing too. But
go ahead.
I want to talk about. Well, I'm sure you might be going this hour, anyways. But we have to talk about everything that has happened in Conor's life since his last fight. Is that what?
That's what I was going to talk about. So I got the list here.
That's why you're the best. So just so people know, we don't really talk about what we're going to talk about, which is I think is the best because then it becomes more natural. Like we know we're going to talk about breaking down the fight.
Right.
But, yeah.
So here's my list, and if I'm missing anything, you let me know. So we got the Bellator in-cage incident. We got the Irish Mafia issue, the the strong arm robbery of the cell phone, threw the dolly at the bus, the post-fight brawl against Khabib, hit the guy in the bar. I mean, that's what I got. We got the sexual allegations of sexual assault. So this is now, okay, I'm going to take a weird turn on this. Has all this stuff really hurt Conor? Like, really? Or has it sort of, I mean, listen, he is the notorious Conor McGregor. Does this help that brand? Does it hurt that brand? Did he not? I mean, he didn't need it.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, does it really hurt him? I mean, it kept him out of the cage, but the money might have kept him out of the cage, Keith.
Yeah, I think, the money, the UFC doesn't care about this shit. Like, let's be honest. I mean,
but does it help him in terms of the fans? Does it make him a more either polarizing figure? Does it make him a bigger star?
I think he turned some people away from him. He didn't turn the amount of people away from him that he should have, but he did turn some people away from him. But like anything, and you know me, I'm not a political person, left or right, but there's certain, if you like the president, the people who really like the president will defend everything he says and does. They'll spin it. They'll, just like the people who dislike the president will find something good he does and find a way to hate on it. The guys who support Conor McGregor, they're gonna support him no matter what. Like, the old man should have docked. He didn't even hit him as hard as he was kind of off balance. Conor was drunk. The fan, the fan who stole his phone. You know how it is with the fans. Imagine if you had the phone put in your face all the time. The sexual allegations, which who knows are the true or false, and neither one of us is saying whether it's true or false. I feel the same way. If it's false, then shame on those people who are lying. And if it's true, then Conor needs to be put in jail.
Right.
I think I can speak for you, me, and everyone on the network. So, the thing that bothers me is what we just saw. I understand the strategy of it, but see what just happened with Ariel Helwani, and he did the interview with Conor before the press conference. Why are we having a press conference? Why are we having a 45-minute sit-down interview with Ariel Helwani? Well, the reason why we're doing a 45-minute interview instead of a 5-minute interview where he just asked about controversy is to seem like, oh, we didn't do this just to cover a quick controversy so we don't have to talk about the press conference. But they did that so when the press conference comes, if any media member has the guts to ask Conor about the 2 sexual assault allegations that's supposedly an ongoing investigation right now, he can say, I just answered these questions this week.
Right, 100%.
I'm not going to answer them. But also what I thought is Ariel asks the question. Conor knows it's coming because that's the whole reason. But he doesn't even mention sexual assault allegations. He just says, all these things that's in the news about you. I was like, is there more obvious, plan by ESPN and the McGregor's team, the UFC, everybody together to show, how obvious that Ariel would even say the word sexual assault allegations?
Yeah, and the other part that I found
embarrassing.
Yeah, the other part I found interesting was how Ariel almost handed him the answer when he goes, do you echo what your management and your whatever said that you would deny these claims? He made sure that Conor remembered that his management and whomever and his legal team has already said that you denied this. Don't forget that, Conor, that you've already, your legal team's already said that, So I get where Ariel's coming from. And listen, I come at this from a different perspective. I do think it is the job of the media to ask those questions. There's a part of me that's glad Ariel got him out of the way. I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm not tuning into that press conference to find out about Conor's sexual assault allegations. I'm really not. That's not why I would watch the press conference.
Yeah, and let's be honest. If anybody asks a question at the press conference, we all know. If you ask a question, you're not going to get an answer. You just want to be the person who asked.
Right. So you can say you did.
I asked. And everyone's like, oh, my God, he risks losing his credit, whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to back up because it's embarrassing. For example, Aaron Rodgers has a football game on Sunday. If there was rumors, if there was any allegations about sexual assault, he would be asked it. The Green Bay Packers would be asked about it. Mike, who's the coach of the Packers now? I almost said Mike McCarthy. Whoever the coach of the Packers, I don't know, would be asked about it. His teammates would be asked about it. They'd be asking Devontae Adams and I don't know who else his team. I almost said Jordy Nelson. He's not there, but you know what I mean. All his teammates would be getting asked about. Like everybody, it would be the biggest thing. But because in MMA we're protected, the media has no power that we get these kind of questions by Arrow that he doesn't even say the words. That said, I want to say it's absolutely brilliant by the UFC, by ESPN, and by Conor's team to set this up.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, I'm embarrassed from the media sense, but. Absolutely great marketing. I mean, great. What's the word I'm looking for? PR control.
Yeah, 100%.
So as soon as someone stands up on Saturday, either Dana White or Conor himself say, "Man, I already asked this question. I already answered those questions this week."
Yeah, and just so you guys know, Matt LaFleur is the coach of the Green Bay Packers. I'm only saying that not to correct Keith, but I know podcast listeners are insane, and you're probably sitting in your cars right now googling who the head coach is. Get back to listening to us, Matt LaFleur. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I wanted to make sure that they knew that we knew.
Guy, but I am a New England Patriots fan, and that's who I really pay attention to. I couldn't think of the second wide receiver for the Packers.
Well, that they can Google if they want. All right, let's move on. Let's start breaking these guys down. Let's start with Conor McGregor. In the past, we have done just a straight scouting report on your part, and I don't want to venture too far away from that because I know you do the tape study, and I know you really have a good handle on who these guys are. I have some questions after you do the breakdown. So we'll get to the breakdown, and then we'll get to the scouting report, and then we'll get to the questions. Let's start with Conor McGregor. Talk to me about what Conor McGregor is all about in the cage.
Well, I mean, I'll talk. It's too simple to call him just a striker because he's not just a striker, but that obviously is his strength. Conor McGregor is one of the best strikers in the UFC, and anybody who says otherwise is just a Conor McGregor hater. Obviously, he's a southpaw. I'm impressed by how calm he is on the feet. He doesn't tense up. When he's in there, he's in control. On the feet, he's all off. I mean, what I should say, he leads the dance. He's the master of range. He gets right to where he wants. He's perfect at slipping a punch just enough just to get off the center line to leave himself inside position to land his own massive shots. He is unbelievable at vision. He keeps his head when he moves away from shots. He keeps his eyes on the target where he has great precision, incredidible power. I mean, look at the Nate Diaz fight, going up a weight class against let's be honest, Nate Diaz is a lightweight fighting at welterweight, but a big lightweight, a guy who's been known for his toughness, and Conor's dropping him with punches. His straight left hand is deadly. But the people who said he's just a left hand, it has really missing the things. While his left hand is definitely his go-to, that's what he looks for the most. His setups are fantastic. He distracts with the right. He moves the right hand. He fights with your hands. He'll go to the body with the right hand. All just getting you thinking and looking for the openings. And he's reading. He's studying to land that left hand and put him out. He works the body really well. Even his most success against Habib was in the third round. Anytime he didn't make Habib hurt, but anytime Habib stepped back and had to regather himself was from body punches from Conor. And to me, that was his best work. And I think he has very underrated kicking game. The teep kicks he was throwing at Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes has gone on record and talked about how much that hurt him. It's something that I just watched the breakdown, the Dan Hardy breakdown, Dan Hardy's fantastic at it. He talked about that Chad Mendes talked about that it wasn't even his punches, it was his teeps that really surprised him. And then his leg kicks. You look at the Nate Diaz kick. He was taking Nate Diaz apart with the leg kicks, and Nate turned into an ugly fight, and Conor kind of got away from that strategy. But in the fourth round, after he dropped the third round, when he regathered himself, he went back to the leg kicks. Now, that's all the good things he does. He does some bad things on the feet. He drops his right hand. Like, he'll throw a jab, and he brings it down to his waist, which he hasn't been punished for that yet. But the way Cerrone throws the high kick from that side, it wouldn't. I mean, it would surprise me if he lands a high kick and knock him out. But I wouldn't be like, oh my god, that wasn't Kevin Randleman throwing that left hook that knocked out Mirko Cro Cop surprise, or Matt Serra's, right hand. He doesn't like to be pressured. He likes when he leads. He doesn't like backing up. Anytime the Nate Diaz is the perfect example of both the first and second fight. And he has such a wide stance, which generates his power. But because of that, he's open to the leg kicks, which no one has really taken advantage of, which is why a lot of people think Justin Gaethje is a bad stylistic matchup, because of how much weight Conor puts on his front leg, which obviously the more weight you put in your front leg, the more likely you're going to be to get kicked. On the ground, he's got no offensive wrestling. He doesn't look to wrestle. I mean, we saw him shoot in the Nate fight when he was hurt, but he's not a wrestler. He gets taken down a lot. Chad Mendes took him down a lot. But while I originally wrote down takedown defense was bad, I actually thought in some moments against Khabib, he showed good takedown defense. Everyone talked about, I was talking to this guy, Bruno, and I respect this Bruno Duar. He used to write with the MMA Takeover. He was going for he was saying he was going for a switch, and it was like, well, Khabib is so deep, you can't, like, he's in a high crouch, you can't sprawl. And I was trying to explain to him, but he was doing things like he didn't just fight; he had great hip control, and even though Khabib took him down, he made Khabib work for that takedown. And a lot of wrestlers would have struggled to get that down. And then obviously is the cardio. In the second Nate fight, the cardio got to him. I don't think the cardio really got to him in the Khabib fight. I think that's just more Khabib style. But we haven't seen him, like, even in the second Nate fight, he kind of got tired in the second round. He got a second win late, and that which helped him win the fight. But cardio is an issue too. So sorry, I know that was a very long time, but that's my entire rap sheet on Conor McGregor.
No, I liked it. So here's, I heard an interesting quote about Conor, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And the quote was, he spends 10% of the time throwing the left hand and 90% of the time making you forget about it. I like that.
Yeah, because he does it with the kicks in the right hand.
Right. So he's always working towards, and we talked about a comparison of guys like this with like Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell would try and walk you into the right hand. Conor kind of does it with the left. I do think, I think one thing that's gotten forgotten with all this Floyd Mayweather business and all this Khabib business, and we're going to get to in the predictions, again, and I'm not the first person to say this, and I won't be the last. He lost a boxing match to Floyd Mayweather, arguably the best boxer of all time. He lost what amounted to a grappling match with Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest grapplers of all time.
Maybe the best ever. Yeah.
Right. So the two things that get forgotten in those two fights that are his, most recent work is that there was a time when we talked about Conor McGregor as like the future of movement. And I'm not talking about the touch button in the park and all that shit. I'm talking about that, him, Dominic Cruz. We thought these guys, at the time, TJ Dillashaw, at the time a little bit Cody Garbrandt, we're like, these guys are the future of movement, right? And how a guy's going to fight and all that's gotten lost because he was in there in a boxing match where that didn't really come into play. And he got taken down a bunch. I think that movement's still present. And I think that it's more relevant against a fighter like Cerrone than it would have been against a fighter like Khabib. So that to me makes this fight very interesting. So now here's my questions.
Yeah. So I just want to jump on one thing about that. The thing that gets me why Khabib, obviously the wrestling aspect, but why Khabib, Conor's the master of the kicking range in. Khabib was shooting even beyond that. And so where Conor's the master of, Khabib was fighting beyond it. Like in the first round, Khabib shot from a mile away, but only Khabib gets that takedown.
Right.
And why later on in the second round, the reason why, and the people I think Conor I think Conor has a great chin. He's never really been hurt. Even when Nate was teeing off on him, he ate them all. Like he seemed more tired than hurt. And not that Nate is a big power puncher, but Chad Mendes is. And he ate Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes almost knocked out Alex Volkanovski in Chad Mendes' retirement fight. People forget that. Like Volkanovski was seriously hurt. He had to come back against Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes hits hard. Conor was never hurt by Chad Mendes on the feet. Obviously, Jose Aldo didn't have a chance to hurt him. But the reason why Khabib caught him is he was outside and then he suddenly moved. And Conor thought it was going to be a shot because he's throwing a looping punch from far distance. Not really what Khabib's known to do. And Conor drops his hands to defend a takedown. And you get a looping right, overhand right on anybody. Completely perfect. I mean, Mirko Cro Cop, as I mentioned earlier, Kevin Randleman did the looping left hook, Mirko Krokop, former K1 champion, got knocked out. So, of course, Conor's going to get dropped with his hands down by his waist. But even then, he didn't seem like he was hurt by the punch, more off-balanced.
All right, so here's the questions I got. There may be some redundancy to what you've already said. If so, I want to work through them, and then we'll see kind of what we have here. First question is, and you can do this as a fight, or you can do this as a mixture of a lot of different things. What's the best version of Conor McGregor? What's his best night?
The best night was his last win against Eddie Alvarez. That was the one. The Jose Aldo one is obviously like, holy crap, he just knocked out Jose Aldo with the very first punch he threw, which is amazing. But there's also that, like, was it a lucky punch? Was what he did to Eddie Alvarez, where he just landed every single thing he threw, pieced him up, that he was just, I mean, Eddie Alvarez had nothing for him. Eddie Alvarez, like, every punch he threw. That's the one where I was like, oh, his vision, the vision. He saw everything that Eddie threw at him, just moved, just out of range, kept himself. It looked like a guy that would, when you do the pads with your coach and you throw, and they know that, all right, 1-2 slip, left hook. And that's what it looked like. A guy like, all right, pop, here's my slip, boom, left hook. Like, he knew what was coming at him, and he was just so – that was the best I've ever seen Conor McGregor, is that Eddie Alvarez fight.
Yeah, and Alvarez isn't an easy guy to take out. I mean, Conor wasn't the first necessarily, but he's not an easy guy to take out. He's been in some wars. Him and Chandler went round and round for,
I think his first fight with Michael Chandler, it might be my favorite fight of all time.
Right.
I'll go to my grave saying this. When people say Dan Henderson and Mercy Shogun is the best fight of all time, I say it wasn't even the best fight of the night. Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler was on the same night.
That's true. All right, let's shorten your rap sheet on Conor and just break this down to, where is he strong? It's on the feet, right?
Yeah, on the feet, the range is where he's best. Like, he's great at keeping the shorter guys at bay. Obviously, Jose Aldo, Eddie Alvarez, and then he's good at getting in his desired range against taller guys. Like, Dustin Poirier is a taller guy. Nate Diaz, like, he's a master of range and vision. I know I'd never realized how great Conor's vision was until I just went through all his UFC fights for this, where we watched it, and just a master of vision.
And where he's weak, obviously the floor. I mean, we'll leave that aside because that's a given. But on his heels, getting walked down. I've never seen him as a tremendous counterpuncher. I mean, he's got great accuracy, but that's not really where he feels comfortable.
Well, no. I think he is a good pressure counterpuncher, if you know what I mean. Like, he's very silly, how Chris Cyborg is, where you're pressing the action, you're coming forward, but drawing your opponent's punches at you. That's what he's mastered. He's mastered going forward, having them backing up, and then throwing, slipping, punching. What he's not great at is having to circle back, even though he still has the power. But that would be that's a big. I would say the cardio, like conserving his energy, because he throws power a lot. But we saw it in the two Nate fights, and I think Nate's paid like. Yeah, I would say the cardio other than the ground. And I didn't like that he gave up his back against Nate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to find a more complex answer.
Right. No.
It's kind of like Fred said it on the Not Safe for Work, where like you kind of know what the weaknesses are with Conor. I was looking for something else, and I really couldn't find it.
How is he with his back to the cage? I feel like my memory of him is that he's not great. Is he able to get off?
Well, I mean, not against Khabib. No one's going to get off. I mean, you got
right. But Nate had him against the cage a little bit, right?
Nate had him against, and Nate's a lot bigger. Nate's rangier. He's strong. Like, people have talked about how surprisingly strong Nate is. So, but Cerrone's built similar to Nate. So, in the range could be an issue in the clinch. It could be an issue for Conor.
All right. So let's talk about for Conor. What's Plan A?
Plan A would be go to the body a lot, work the body a lot, set up the left hand by working the body. I mean, Donald Cerrone has been hurt several times to the body, and that is the area where I could see Conor, because Conor is a student of the game. I mean, that's the thing we've seen. He's talked about. He likes studying guys, and he'll study Donald. He's going to study Donald Cerrone. He's going to know the areas that, and the body has always been a problem for Donald Cerrone.
All right, and then what's plan B?
Leg kicks. I was very impressed with his leg kicks, and I think that's an area that Justin Gaethje was having a field day with Cerrone with the leg kicks. That was his last fight. And Cerrone, think about this: 2 fights in a row, Cerrone has taken a lot of damage between Tony Ferguson and Justin, and obviously a guy who's had as many appearances in the UFC as Donald Cerrone has. He's going to have, I mean, the damage is already taken its toll. Never mind after the 2 fights he just had.
All right, let's talk about does the best version of Conor McGregor beat Donald Cerrone on an average night? Like, not the best Cerrone, but not a bad Cerrone either. An average Cerrone, does the best version of Conor McGregor beat him?
Then against an average Donald Cerrone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I know it seems like a weird question. I'm going to flip it here in a second.
Okay.
And how far do you think Conor is from his best? Can we know?
I don't know.
He's not active enough.
We have to see. To me, it has to be deep in the fight to know. The 3rd round, 4th round. But it's weird because if he gets the 3rd and 4th round, is he the best Conor? The best Conor should take him on the 1st round.
Right.
But I also want to see if he's fixed the cardio. Has he learned how to conserve his energy but still keep his power? Like, which is that's the thing with Tony Ferguson. It's like, how does he stay as high paced he is, but as accurate as he is, funky as he is? How can he keep that pace? Something like Colby Covington doesn't get enough credit for, like how you can keep that output. Can Conor keep a high output and still keep his power? That's something he's never showed. You know, his energy, like most people, the deeper you go in the fight, he's going to lose power. Can Conor do that? I don't know.
Next 2 things are my favorite 2 things that we've added to the show. One is a question and one's more of just an area we're touching on. How will we know Conor's in trouble? First 2 rounds, how do I know Conor's in trouble? Or how do I know it's going to be a long night?
If he gets taken down in the 1st round, I think it would be a long night. If he gets taken down and he's stuck on the bottom for a while, that could be. I mean, it could be a short night actually. If he gets taken down, which we'll get into the breakdown of Donald Cerrone. If he gets taken down, and if he unloads on Cerrone, and Cerrone is, first 2 rounds, and Cerrone's still battling, that could be a big issue.
I think the other thing is that if Cerrone really gets committed to the leg kicks and we see Conor adjust to them, if he's switching stances, if he's at further distance, I think if we see him physically accounting for, or either, you and I talk about the distances and the range of where he's at. So either if he closes distance or if he gets further away, the whole thing with Nate, like, oh, you're a wrestler now because Nate was cracking him. I think that if we see him make an adjustment to the leg kicks, he's probably in trouble as well. The last thing.
And he doesn't want to be, like you said, he doesn't want to be in that all the way in range.
No. The last thing with Conor, let's talk about coaching. There's been some talk. He's with Kavanaugh. Dylan Dennis is still present, but there's been a lot of talk of like Conor's his own coach. Even Kavanaugh says that. The kind of guy Kavanaugh is, though, he's probably taking a piss when he says that. He's not exactly saying it as a compliment. The old saying of whoever wants to represent themselves in court as a fool for a client. That kind of thing. So if Kavanaugh is calling Conor the head coach, where are you feeling with Conor's coaching? I like that there's some consistency there. Yeah. But I don't know.
It's just tough because like these athletes that are bigger than the sport, like obviously Michael Jordan had Phil
Jackson.
Phil Jackson. I almost said Phil Collins. Phil Jackson. But Michael Jordan, he ran the play. He ran the team. Right. LeBron James has had a bunch of coaches. LeBron James is the coach of whatever team he's playing on. There's very few guys. I mean, I guess the best example of a big megastar who has a coach that can kind of control him would be Belichick Brady.
Yeah. But,
I mean, obviously I'm from New England. Brady doesn't have that. Brady is the ultimate competitor, but he's not a prima donna.
Brady's also committed to listening to Belichick as a byproduct of a greater good. So he's like, I got to let him, I got to let him lay into me every once in a while to prove the point we're trying to prove here.
Yeah. And
it's not a singular sport.
And I don't think Brady's personality changed much from year 1 to year 20.
Right.
Obviously, Conor it has. So would he be good with any other team? Like, would it be any different? Like, if he went, like, who do you think as a coach demands the most or gets the most respect from their athletes?
As a coach, wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Or especially someone who has had the you know, a star fighter, a fighter who's a top 10 guy ever, or not that Conor is, but Conor is as for the star point, has had that coach that meets, I mean, maybe St. Pierre for us, a hobby maybe.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's coaches out there that I think would be good with Conor. I just don't know. I guess I'm not looking for another team for Conor. I'm just asking you if the team that he has now is as consistent as it was when he was great. Or do you feel like there's a departure from that? Because obviously, I think Conor would be great with Mike Brown. I think Conor would be great with Greg Jackson. He'd have to be more of a team if he was there, and that's not who Conor is. So that aside, I'm just saying, who do you think that this team is equipped for what Conor needs now? Are they as bought in as they've ever been?
It's such a tough question because the good thing about the Conor camp is they're centered around him. Not every fighter. You go to American Top Team, they're not going to be completely centered. Conor shows up, the entire fight camp is about him. So, yeah, I'm going to say it probably is the right team, and that's probably not a popular opinion. I think most people would not agree with that. But to have like Owen Roddy, who's I think is a very good boxing coach, like I think they did a very good game plan for the Mayweather fight. I think they did as good as they got the best out of Conor in that match that he possibly, reasonably could expect. I thought Conor blew me away with how well he did against Floyd Mayweather. Now, some people say Floyd carried him. I don't believe that shit. I think Floyd was studying him, but I don't think he was carrying him. So, and I actually believe that he made adjustments, but Conor said, like, I expected this, and then when he changed that, I didn't have a game plan for plan B, C, and D, and that's what makes Floyd Mayweather the master. So, overall, yeah, I think it's a good team. Like, I think having Dylan Danis as his personal, you have one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. Say what you want about Dylan Danis, but have one of the best guys in the world as pretty much your jiu-jitsu coach is good. Having Owen Roddy, a great boxing coach, as your coach is good. So I think he needs, what he is missing is that tough love mentor. I don't know if he has that. I don't know if John Kavanaugh, he may be. The only person who knows that is Kavanaugh and him. But to have that guy who would,
that he answers to,
that could smack him upside the head and say, "What are you doing, punching this 6-year-old man? What are you doing?"
Khabib has his father.
Khabib has his father, and he has Javier Mendez there.
Cormier, like he has mentors in his life.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Khabib's father is a perfect example. Like the way Khabib talks about his father, does Conor talk about anybody like that?
No, absolutely not. So, all right, let's move on to Donald Cerrone. I think we cover Conor as well as we can. So, give me your scouting report on Cerrone. I mean, listen, you got a lot to draw from. He's been fighting for a long time, but he's pretty much consistent. I mean, as well-rounded of as a fighter as he is, he likes to do similar things. There's a way that he enjoys fighting. So, let's talk about Cowboy. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm adjusting my computer, which is not giving the video people what they want. Donald Cerrone has great snap on his punches. That's what really snaps. He really has. He snaps those punches. Great jab. That's probably his best strike. He does very well at mixing in his kicks and his punches together. He fights well from the kicking range. He does well when he throws combinations, when he's really aggressive, knowing that everything comes off the jab. But when he throws jab, kick, high kick, jab, kick, uppercut, like when he mixes it all together, that's when he's really good. Now, the bad striking is I kind of agree with Chael Sonnen where he says that let me back up. I kind of agree with Chael Sonnen when they say I don't see any evidence that Donald Cerrone is a slow starter. I do see evidence that he's a slow starter. I just think it's been exaggerated. I think there's been one or two fights that happened with, and everyone remembers that, like versus the the Rafael dos Santos, the second fight against Rafael dos Santos is one that kind of jumps out where he did nothing in the open round and got kind of blown up. He is a big target, and the biggest reason is he stands up very high, stiff, kind of like a Muay Thai fighter. He doesn't like being pressured. Cerrone feels very comfortable in a distance kickboxing bout. Al Iaquinta started off very well against Donald Cerrone by pressuring. And then suddenly in the second round, he decides to completely change his game plan and lets Cerrone start leading the dance, and that's when he gets picked apart. The Achilles heel is his body. He's had abdominal surgery. He's never truly recovered. He's been hurt to the body before. Jorge Masvidal hurt him to the body. Dos Santos hurt him to the body. Gaethje put him down with a body shot. He might hit him put him down, but he hurt him to the body. Because he stands up so high, his leg kicks are open, which is what Justin Gaethje showed in the last fight. And the other offensive thing that he doesn't lack true one-punch knockout power. Now, of course, he's landed that high kick, which, put down Matt Brown, put down Edson Barboza because of that. But he doesn't lack one. You step into a punch and he's knocking you. Now, he's dropped guys with punches, but he's not a puncher. He's not a knockout puncher. Grappling, I wrote down earlier this week, underrated wrestler. And then I started realizing everybody's calling him an underrated wrestler. So he must not be underrated. So I'm just going to put it like this. He's a good wrestler. He's never get called a wrestler, but he takes down a lot of guys. He's very good at winning scrambles all the way back to the days of WEC when he was going against Benson Henderson. He's good at winning scrambles. He's a serious submission threat on top and on bottom. He pulls off triangles. That armbar against Mike Perry. He's hard to take down. He's not guys have struggled to take him down. Eddie Alvarez struggled to take him down. And then I never thought he had a great cardio. And then I watched the Tony Ferguson fight, and I saw Tony Ferguson fighting at the most insane pace of anybody. And Donald Cerrone did not struggle with the pace. He got hit a lot. That's what hurt him. He got hit and he got cut up. He got his arm busted, bunch of stuff. But he kept up the pace for Tony Ferguson, which was really surprised me. So while I would have said before that he probably has pretty good cardio, I'm going to see actually he has really good cardio. So that's kind of my rap sheet on Donald Cerrone.
All right, then let's get into the questions, same as they were for.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. No. The last thing I didn't mention is since Conor last won a fight, which is Eddie Alvarez fight, Donald Cerrone has fought 11 times. And during that same fight, Conor has fought once against Khabib, not counting the Floyd Mayweather fight. So a big advantage he's had is he's not rusty. Conor could be rusty. So that's the other advantage that Cerrone has.
Well, and I kind of want to get into that because, and I'll have a little bit of a pushback to that, which is that he's always been active. So whatever he has ever been is what he is now. Now, is that better than what Conor is the question. So, yeah, he's active, but he was active when he was getting his ass whipped too.
That's true. That's very true.
You know what I'm saying? So, okay, we got to –
Travis Fulton is as active as anybody. He's still a tomato game. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to the questions. What's the best version of Donald Cerrone? What was his best night?
His best night – I'm gonna change. I'm gonna say rounds 2 through 5 of Al Iaquinta recently. I'm not gonna go way back, but of recently, obviously he had the Edson and Barbosa win. That was a great win. But the best Donald Cerrone, the Eddie Alvarez one back in the day was a pretty solid one. But rounds 2 through 5 of Al Iaquinta was the one that really was jumping off the film work. And just for the record, I said I watched all of Conor McGregor's fights in the UFC. I did not watch all 110 of Donald Cerrone's.
Where's he strong?
His kicks, the way he mixes in his kicks, the way he disguises his kicks. A lot of his kicks, he has great dexterity in his hips. The way he can just flick the kick up to head, and when he adds kicks into his combinations, that's when Cerrone is feeling it. When Cerrone's feeling it is when you see the punching combination added in with the kicks. That's when he's finding
when he
groove.
finishes him off with a kick. Yeah,
Either finished or even mid kick. Was it the Rick Story one where he knocked it? Like he hit that like one of the best combinations. We hit like a 4-punch combination. Every Donald Cerrone highlight, you always see that one.
Yeah,
like, that might be the most impressive. But I get a higher quality opponent. The one with when he started over, he was throwing combinations at Iaquinta.
refresh my memory. How is he a kick into the body? Because in my mind's eye, I know
Good.
the leg kicks, I know the high kicks.
He's good. He does a front kick to the body. He likes to use the push kick, or the teep kick. Like he's good. He's good. Cerrone's good at all areas with the kicks.
All right, where's he weak?
Getting pressured. He doesn't like when a guy's coming at him when he's getting forced to foot off his back foot. He doesn't like to brawl. That's never been Cerrone's thing. He doesn't want to sit in the pocket and throw down. And that's not Conor's area too, but if that happens, that favors Conor.
It's interesting. We talked about when we were breaking down the Usman Covington fight, how, I don't know if we said it in these terms, but it was kind of what we were beating around the bush of it was the, the old wrestling thing, right? The immovable object and irresistible force, what was going to give. I think this is a better stylistic matchup than people are kind of giving. I mean, this fight makes sense in a lot of different ways. And like you said, if Cerrone's weak getting pressure, well, Conor's a pressure fighter. Mm-hmm. If Cerrone's strong kicking legs, Conor hates that. So I think there's definitely some space here where there can be a hell of a fight. I think that people have sort of resigned themselves to what their beliefs are, and no one's really said yet, and we may be getting to this when it comes time for our predictions here in a second. We got more Cerrone stuff for you, but who's to say this isn't going to be Adesanya Gastelum? Who's to say this isn't going to be McDonald and Lawler? You know what I'm saying? This could be one of those fights. I mean, obviously Conor did it with Nate. So, all right, what's plan A for Cowboy?
Just writing off Donald Cerrone, to me, is crazy. Being that, I'll get into that right here. Plan A is, I think, is take Conor down. Having Conor overextend at a punch, shooting a takedown and get him to the ground. And I don't see Cerrone holding Conor down and beating him up with ground and pound like Mendez did, like Khabib. What I see him is jumping on a submission. Conor's trying to scramble up, and there's Cerrone. That is his best avenue.
I'm going to give you a weird comparison here, and we haven't talked about this before, but a lot of fighters are what I call Wilt Chamberlains, right? And the thing that's amazing about Khabib is he's a Shaquille O'Neal. And this is the difference between Wilt Chamberlain and Shaquille O'Neal, because I know a lot about basketball history. Wilt Chamberlain almost was apologetic about the fact that he was the biggest guy on the floor and would go out of his way to make things more fair. Shaquille O'Neal got the ball down low and dunked on your head and then threw it at you. So the thing I admire about Khabib, and I'm going somewhere with this, so bear with me. The thing I admire about Khabib.
Hold on. If anybody had a Wilt Chamberlain reference on our bingo tonight, good for you, man.
Congratulations. But the thing about Khabib is he has this one advantage, and he goes right to it and does not relent from it. He's like, this is what I do. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up. Because Donald Cerrone sat down with Brett Okamoto, and Brett Okamoto asked him straight out, are you going to take Conor down? And he said, I probably should, but I probably won't. Now, the thing that I think is missing and why you have to admire Khabib for a lot of different reasons, but this is one of the ways, and we'll move this back to Cerrone after I pay Khabib this compliment, which is he probably won't take Conor down, Cerrone. And it's like when you're a fighter, Khabib does not want to win this fight, no matter what comes with winning the fight. That way, he just doesn't. And he even said in the interview, he goes, I might be stupid, but it's my stupidity. Who's to say this guy can outstrike me? That if that's what Cerrone wants to hang his cowboy hat on, is that I can outstrike Conor and it's ultimately his demise, that's his decision to make. So I think that's where this fight does get interesting because, yes, he probably could win a match on the ground with Conor very easily. That's not what he's looking to do. And all this, Cerrone got paid off and blah, 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 and there's a gentleman's agreement to stand. No, there's a gentleman's agreement that he wants to get in a fight with Conor McGregor. And he doesn't think taking him down is getting in a fight. And I think that might be what we see. I mean, I think that makes this fight interesting.
I don't know if he can take Conor down. I put it at like 50-50. Like,
okay.
I don't want to – like, it's not Chad Mendez.
Right.
But I think it's a little bit Well, I said that Cerrone's wrestling is underrated, which to the point it's probably not underrated anymore. Conor's wrestling is a little underrated, where people there's like there's always like everything in Conor is always two extremes. Anybody who says that Conor has great takedown defense, shut up. Like he doesn't have great takedown defense. He got taken down by Nate Diaz. He got he got judo tripped by Nate Diaz. Chad Mendes turned into a wrestling dummy. Habib took him down. Like he doesn't have great takedown defense. But anybody who's like he sucks at wrestling is also on the other extreme. Like he's solid. He's got solid takedown defense. He's not great. But Cerrone's I'm very impressed by his wrestling.
What's plan B?
Well, plan B is, I think, just stay at the kicking range, and people will talk about that Conor has a longer striking range. I think plan B would be, longer with his hands. Cerrone has longer legs, and he can kind of kick, stay out there. But I think that I didn't mention about plan A and plan B. Both of them is to survive the early portion of the fight, get into the deeper portion of the fight, start taking over with the cardio, with an output kind of thing. Kind of where Conor will start off fast and slow down. Cerrone might take the other approach, start off slow, and start hitting the accelerator as each round goes by. That's planned. That goes with plan A and plan B.
Okay, here comes the flip of the question I asked you earlier. Does the best version of Donald Cerrone beat an on his game but average Conor McGregor? Conor on not an off night, but not a perfect night. Can the best version of Donald Cerrone beat him? So
could the best version of Donald Cerrone beat the Conor that lost to Nate the first time?
Yes.
Would you say that's? Yeah, I think he could. Could he? Yeah, I think he could. You're having it again.
Listen, for me, I don't know. I think that he's on a. I think that a Conor on an off night can still pull. I think Cerrone, as talented as he is, and we'll get to that here in a second.
So there's your prediction.
Well, kind of, but we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know if we're going to get the best of Cerrone. So
that's true.
I think that the best Conor beats an okay Cerrone. I think the best Cerrone does not beat an okay Conor. I think Conor could get through Cerrone. Well, that kind of flies in the face of what I've been saying. So I don't know. We'll have to get to our prediction here in a second and go from there. Now, here's the other question: how will we know Cowboy's in trouble?
If he's unconscious, if Conor's just having his way early in the fight, where he's sliding out of proportion, out of every single thing, landing combinations, landing to the body, sitting on his punches, rocking him. If that's the number one way Cerrone's in trouble. The second way is if we start getting to the second, third, fourth round and Conor's not tiring, Cerrone's in trouble.
I think if Conor can get to the bottom.
Cardio is a very, very important for Cerrone to win this fight. Other than what I think is a quick submission or that switch kick, high kick that could catch Conor.
I think how effective Conor is to the body will let me know if Cowboy's in trouble. And I think if Cowboy's bleeding in the first, it might be a long night. Not that he can't handle a little bit of blood early, but I think if that's going to show me that Conor's landing. If his nose is showing some blood, if his eyes showing some blood, either cut or starting to swell, I think that Cowboy might be in trouble because it's showing that Conor's got his range together. Because my biggest concern with Conor is his range in this fight. And I think that if he's found his range in the mid to late first, I think Cowboy might be in trouble. Coaching for Cowboy. Listen, I watched a little bit of the Countdown show. So he's got this strength and conditioning chick that's out there at the BMF ranch. He seems like she's pushing him.
Yeah,
he's got Joe Shilling, and he's got this guy. I don't want to butcher his name. His wrestling guy is
the Jafari guy.
Jafari
Veneer, I think. Yeah, Veneer. Yeah, he's been his coach for a while.
Okay, so how do you feel about his team? I mean, listen, Veneer himself said that. Listen, when you're in Cowboys camp and when you're in a Cowboys guys, you'll be ready to go at a moment's notice. How well will having Shilling as a partner in terms of stand-up help him with Conor?
Well, he's been with him for a long time, so Yeah, he's been with a long time, so I don't know if it really has make that big of a difference now.
Right. Whatever he
I
is, he's
I,
been.
I also, if you think about the way the camps go with Donald Cerrone, it seems like kind of very similar to Conor. Donald's in charge. I mean, it's his facility. People come to him, so he's in charge. Even though he might have strength and conditioning coaches, he might have wrestling. At the end of the day, if he wants to take the day off to go hand gliding or whatever crazy thing that Donald Cerrone will do that day, go wrestle a shark, then that's what he's going to do. But on the flip side, I don't know if a strategy and stuff really matters or camp, because he seems like a guy who's like always in camp because he'll fight anybody in a week's notice.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he seems like a guy. Conor doesn't seem like the guy who's always training. Like Cerrone just seems, and I could be talking on my. I don't know either. I don't hang out with either one of them. I just from their personalities, from the behind the scenes stuff. It just seems like if it's Tuesday night, there's a very good chance Cerrone's sparring with somebody, or he fights this Saturday and then Sunday he's sparring somebody just because that's Donald Cerrone.
Right. Well, and the other part of it is, Conor's got the FU money now. So Cerrone's like, I'm going to go I'm going to fill this BMF ranch with snowmobiles. So I got to go fight. I'm going to buy paintball guns so I got to go fight. So I think he stays ready because he enjoys it. That's his lifestyle. But also, he has to, he don't got that Floyd Mayweather money in his bank account. Yeah. He's got to still go out there and grind it out.
I'm hoping he gets a big paid on this. So he'll have some nice snowmobiles and jet skis or whatever crazy things he wants to buy. But I think generally speaking, it's a good camp for him just because he's the center of attention. And that there's people, I mean, he's good quality guys. I mean, Joe Shillan's a fantastic kickboxer and whatnot. And as far as I know, the Jafari Vernier guy is a good coach. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, he's had good results.
All right, then let's get to it. It's prediction time.
Well, you've already you want to give yours first because you kind of already given.
Yeah, I'll give mine first. And listen, the reason why I like to go first and you should always go second is because you take this. You really are concerned with who you think might win. You put a lot of thought into it. I'm a narrative guy. I want Conor to win. I will find because of what it means for the sport, what it means for our brand moving forward, what it means for my interest in the sport and what we're going to produce moving forward. Listen, MMA is more interesting when Conor's around and doing well. So for me, I think that he finds the range early, finds Cowboy's chin in a big way in the second, and finishes him in the third. That's my prediction.
Wow. So my prediction is I'm trying to figure out – I'm picking it earlier than you. I'm taking Conor. I'm going to take him first round. I think I'm expecting a big year from Conor. If you listen to the Between the Links, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we were making our prediction for Fighter of the Year, and I picked Conor as the 2020 Fighter of the Year, which I guess would fall into that Conor nut hugger thing, which is funny because I remember spending hours before the Chad Mendez fight, saying that Conor wasn't that good. I think Conor, between his vision, the history of Cerrone being a hittable guy, the fact that Conor does work the body, and the damage that Cerrone has taken, I think Conor comes out. I think we see vintage Conor. I think Conor takes him on the first round.
Interesting. All right, one more thing, guys, before we move on to round 5. I want to touch base on one more thing, just because I forgot, and I want to talk to you about this real quick, and then we'll fix it all up in the post production.
Just leave it. Just leave it raw.
Coaching. Listen, we're a professional outfit. We got to get this stuff right. All right, so let's move on to what's next. So obviously the winner of this fight is going to headline UFC Greensboro. That has got to be the next move. And if you don't get that joke, listen to Between the Links. So what's next?
Can we do this? So there's 4 categories. You have Conor wins, Conor loses, Cerrone wins, Cerrone loses.
Okay.
Cerrone loses, to me, it's anybody. It's the same old Donald Cerrone fighting whoever. Fighting UFC Greensboro versus Ismail Makhachev there. Like, he could fight anybody. If Cerrone wins, his stock rises. I came up with 3 names. Okay. Nate Diaz, because, to be the, totally banking in on the casual fans. I think Colby Covington would be fun at welterweight because of the conflict of personalities and whatnot. And then the other person I thought about be Dustin Poirier.
That's interesting.
And
You
it's
don't
funny,
think any of this
of the three, I actually think the guy that probably makes most from the ranking sense, Poirier, I actually would be the least one that they'd pick of those three.
You don't see a fight with Jorge Masvidal happening? And obviously, he's got the BMF belt. Donald's got the BMF ranch. Donald beat Cowboy. I mean, Donald would have beat Conor at this point. Does that fight make sense to you? Or do you think
Maybe.
Masvidal's in another stratosphere? If you're Masvidal, listen. Keith. We don't do this game enough. I'm stealing this directly from Bill Simmons. He does it when he proposes trades. Here we go. Jorge Masvidal, Donald Cerrone. Which camp says no?
Donald Cerrone never says no. So Jorge
I forgot about that. Damn it! It ruined the whole game.
I mean, it could have been Godzilla or Donald Cerrone. Who says no? Godzilla.
Godzilla.
I know what you're saying. Like, who does it make sense for more?
No, which camp would say no? There's a better fight out there for. Let me put it to you that way. No, he won't say no. Which camp says there's a better fight for me?
To me, we have to see what a win over Conor does for Cerrone. Does it take him? Is it? I mean, it's going to make him go higher. Even just facing Conor, his stock rises just by facing with the casual fans. But does he beat Conor in a convincing way? Does he knock him out? Does he win in a huge combination? When he gets in the mic, does he say the perfect thing like Jorge Masvidal did? Did we get him on SportsCenter saying funny things? Does the next Sunday SportsCenter, they have some SportsCenter anchor going out on jet skis with Donald Cerrone and sitting by the water having a conversation afterwards? Like, does all these things happen? Does he end up on Jimmy Fallon doing some kind of funny prank on somebody? Does all these things happen? If all those things happen, then Jorge Masvidal doesn't turn out. But if it's just a win that doesn't go past a little bit in rising his stack, then I think Masvidal goes after the title instead.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people have said this doesn't really feel like a Conor fight week, and I get that sentiment. I think I personally tweeted out this week, I think Conor has a media strategy for this week, and he doesn't want to burn anything early. I think he's really focused on the fight. That's part of it as well. But I think part of the reason why Eddie Alvarez, Nate Diaz, all those guys got a little bit of a push when they fought Conor was the lead up. Nate Diaz and Conor were on CNBC. Yeah. Like, they were everywhere. So you're right. We do need to see what happens after this fight with Cowboy Cerrone.
I'm starting to hear it a little bit more. Like National Championship was last night, and they had the ads for the fight and stuff. But you're right. It does not have the same buzz. The press conference tomorrow, I kind of needs to open up a little bit. They're going back to what we said earlier, all the way back in the very first. They started by insulting each other. Now they're complimenting each other, where Cerrone was standing there basically like, I'll fight Conor. It'd be an honor to fight Conor. And Conor saying like, excuse me, I like him. He's a family guy, the way he takes care of his grandmother.
It's weird, man. I think they do like each other, and that gets funky. Chael Sonnen talks shit to everybody except for Brian Stann. When he fought Brian Stann, there wasn't really much to say, and I think it's because he respected him. Yeah. But my point is that I think that there's a little bit of respect between the two of them. Now listen, Conor could come out tomorrow and completely blow that out of the water by having this whole thing set up and ready to go. I think that he still wants to prove that he's still this bankable star, and that I think he's gonna have some stuff for us in the next couple of days. Yeah. But let's talk about we have a really stacked couple of divisions here. So you gave me the scenario if Cerrone loses. You gave me the scenario if Cerrone wins. What happens if Conor loses? It's got to be the Nate fight, right?
Okay, so I wrote down. Now I tried coming up with every scenario I could. So I came up with 5 possible opponents.
Okay.
The one would be I have 2 that I say these are the 2 that if they still want to hold higher, like still give Conor marquee names. The Diaz trilogy would be the most obvious one. The Diaz trilogy, I think, fits in both categories. The Conor and Diaz is going to fight one more time. The other one that I think, if they want to get him in a big name, would be kind of Colby Covington.
Yeah.
And at 170. Then the next tier, Hound, I said, well, these are the ones that would make sense in a ranking sense now. And I'd said the winner of Paul Felder, Dan Hooker. It's a main event, so their name's going to go up a little bit. And then the other one I came up with, and this is kind of going with a ranking sense, but also a different angle, is Islam Makhachev. kind of re-stirring up the Conor versus the whole Khabib camp thing, the brawl thing, like going that angle, the Muslim versus Conor, the Conor versus like all that.
Right, yeah.
But the UFC might not want to touch that. And then if you want to go way back, you want to say, guys, we got to get this guy a win. He lost to Floyd. He lost to Khabib. He just lost to Cerrone.
Here it comes.
This guy. We need to get this guy a win. If you want to go all the way down that, go all the way to Joe Duffy.
I knew it was coming.
I say it.
You and this Joe Duffy fight, you're never going to let it die.
He's got to win over. I'm saying this is like the very least likely. This would not be – people would be pissed off. It would probably be Conor headlining an ESPN card, not ESPN Plus.
Right.
Not UFC Fight Pass. I mean, like, the big ESPN. But you're like, ultimately, like when they gave him Dennis Seaver. Like, all right, we need a win. We need him in the main event. Let's get him a win. We get Dennis Seaver. That's how I feel the Joe Duffy thing would be.
Okay, now with a win, does he go 70 or 55?
Dude, so I got a million. I got a million ones first. So the ones I say, like, you're going with the highest ones. The highest one would be what Dana White is saying in fight Khabib. That'd be obviously like the highest one. You could do that. The other one would be Tony Ferguson if he wins. The second one would be fighting Usman. You jump the line, fight Usman. So those are, and then the last one of the highest high would be Jorge Masvidal, which I think a Conor win would probably be the one that's going to happen. Is Jorge Masvidal. I think that's probably the fight they're going to do. Then I have the one that's like, all right, he got to win. He keeps talking about a season. If the UFC looks at it the same way Conor does, as a season, where at the end of the season is a Super Bowl. That's where we're trying to get. They're not trying to rush him. Maybe the Woodley Leon Edwards winner, if they want to keep him at 170.
Yeah. Tony
Ferguson coming off if Tony Ferguson loses to Khabib, that could be it. He's not going to fight Khabib if Khabib loses, because what's the point? Colby Covington, again, I still think fits in that one. Like, I think Covington could fit either way, win or loss. And then another one, obviously, I already said Diaz, the trilogy. And then Dustin Poirier, that they've kind of talked about. They've been interested in fighting again. And then I have, like, the ultimate, like, all right, we want to try to get him another win, is that he never fought RDA. Like, they were supposed to fight each other.
Yeah.
Do RDA. At this point, I really feel like that would really favor Conor, but
so here's what I got, and I love everything you just said except for the matchups. I think there's a lot of unfavorable matchups for him in there. I think if he's going to go into a fight with a severe disadvantage against someone, like he has against Khabib, it should be Kamaru Usman, because he's already lost to Khabib. So what I would do if I was the UFC is, if he beats Cerrone, you want to talk about the season. Here's the season. And this is the way to maximize your Conor profit. He beats Cerrone. He fights Masvidal at International Fight Week, and he fights Kamaru Usman in Brooklyn in November.
Okay.
That to me is maximizing the money you can make from Conor. And with Masvidal, you get a favorable matchup because Masvidal is going to stand with him. So for me, that's the only path.
Yeah.
Now,
so
I agree with the only change to that would be I would do him against Gaethje at International Fight Week if I was trying to set up Khabib.
Okay, so what I want to just make clear, I was just giving all the possible options.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah.
That makes sense. I wasn't just throwing out anybody.
Yeah. No, I got you.
And then what I think happens is Jorge Masvidal.
Okay.
If I am the guy, I'm looking at it the same way Conor. I'm looking at it as a season. And I'm going to try to give him favorable matchups, but still that you could benefit if he loses. So I would go, obviously, Cerrone. He beats Cerrone. I like the Nate Diaz trilogy. I think that's a very winnable fight for Conor. Then I like Justin Gaethje. He wins that, Justin Gaethje. Now back to Khabib or Tony, whoever's the champion.
Here's going to be where we come into agreement.
That's the long road.
Here's where we're going to come into agreement. And this is where I think we're going to get out of this podcast. Last thing, my last question for you, the last words I want uttered on this podcast, other than how great our network is. If Conor wins, and this is going to tell us everything. If Conor wins, who does he call out in the cage?
I'm going to answer that in 1 second. One thing that's crazy we didn't talk about is that this fight's at 170. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Conor, it's not even a story anymore because Conor will fight anyway.
Yeah.
And the reason why I went the path, you went 170, path. I went 155. It just because I think 155 is a better weight class for him. I think eventually the size advantage will hurt him, and I think there's worse matchups with Usman, with Covington, maybe even Leon Edwards. Like there's worse matchups. So
I agree with you. Here's the only place I disagree with you. I think Usman's a better matchup than Khabib, and I think that if he fought Usman and he won, he'd never defend the belt. I think he should never fight Khabib again. I mean, I understand the financials of it all, but I think that he doesn't want anything to do other than cleaning that up. I get it. Yeah, listen, he's a competitor. He's a competitor, and he has to fight Khabib to clean up that record. But if I was him, I've said this 1,000 times. I'd fight Masvidal. I'd fight Usman. Get that 70 belt. I no shit. I know he said that he doesn't care about it.
Yeah.
If I fought Masvidal in International Fight Week, that BMF title would be on the line. Yeah. And if I fought Usman, the 70 belt be on the line. At the end, you just say, listen, 45, 55, BMF, 70, what's left?
So
I'd go fight Manny Pacquiao or whatever.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer your question in 1 second because I know you'll say you want to end it.
All right.
I agree that I think Khabib might be a worse matchup than Usman. The problem is I'm saying there's like 2, 3, 4 possible bad matchups at 170 where I think there's guys who could beat him at 155, but the only one I'm like, this is a bad matchup is Khabib. That's why I think still 155 is the better weight class to go. So to answer your question, who does he call? He probably calls out a whole bunch of people. He probably mentions, I'm here, I'm back, I'll fight anybody, Gaethje, this and. But if he only calls out one person, if he does, I'm making one call out, Jorge Masvidal.
I agree. It's Jorge Masvidal.
If only one person, I expect him to call out everybody. I think
Jorge Masvidal, and this is going to sound horrible because of the run that he's on, I think Jorge Masvidal is the most beatable fighter out there with the biggest profile. I think he calls him out. I think the fight makes sense.
It's a very fascinating matchup, Jorge Masvidal and Conor. Yeah.
All right, guys, there you have it. It's a wrap on the 5th episode of All Angles. Make sure you subscribe and like us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and now YouTube. Be sure to also listen to all the other content on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, including the Not Safe for Work podcast with Kyle Steele and Fred Kirby, Between the Links, hosted by Mike Heck and starring an all-star cast of writers from around MMA, including Keith Shillan, including Davidson Baker, including Craig Allen. The Loudmouth MMA Recap Show, which will be a great one with Keith and I, post this fight, the Breakdown Show with Max and Marcel, MMA Yesterday with Kyle Steele and Keith Shillan, the MMA Takeover with Keith Shillan, which was a fantastic, well-formatted show. I love it. And also there's some other stuff coming. Do you care to speak on any of that?
There's a new show getting taped right now as we speak.
Let's talk about it.
It's a roundtable style show. It is not Between the Links where there's 4 people arguing. It's 4 people just discussion. I know Craig and Mike is on it. Kyle Steele is on it. And a new member of the team, Drake Riggs, is on. I'm not sure if he's permanent. I think he might be permanent. I probably shouldn't say that publicly. But
he should be. I've done some podcasts with Drake in the past.
If Drake isn't, it's on him. And if you're listening, tweet at him and say, hey, Drake, be permanent.
There you go. Keith can be followed at Keith Shillan MMA. I can be followed at SM Cornerman. That's it, guys. It's a big one as always. We'll talk to you on the recap show afterwards. And there you have it. Peace.